Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 971, and today's date is May 15th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief. Now, before I get started, I have an announcement to make. On the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, I just placed an interview with Bull Pony. This is about how he recalculated when the collapse is going to happen, and he moved it up from this fall to this summer, saying gold is going to go over 2,000 and continually rise. And if you have not seen the interview, go over to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. You can view the interview there, or you can come over to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to the right-hand side, you'll see the video there, or you can go to newssentinel.com, same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to the right-hand side, and you can view the video there. Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, we've been watching the economy for quite a while now, and we've been mapping the deterioration of the economy. And we've been noticing from all the economic indicators how retail is contracting. We notice that GDP is contracting. We notice that manufacturing is contracting. The Baltic Dry Index is at its lowest point. It's bobbing up and down, heading downwards in a downward trend. And these are all facts. These are things that we are looking at. These are economic indicators that we are looking at, and they are facts. Now, when you look at the government information, they continually manipulate, and they explain away why they don't count these people on unemployment, why GDP isn't where it is, people aren't spending, that's why retail is not doing well. They point the fingers everywhere else except themselves. Now, you have to remember, the U.S. government central bankers, they've been manipulating all along. Ever since the central bank has taken control of our system, there's always been manipulation. But what we've been seeing since 2008 is the acceleration of the manipulation, where they're going into overdrive because they need to manipulate to the 10th, to the 100th, to the 1,000th degree, because the economy is deteriorating so rapidly and so quickly that the manipulation is so obvious right now. But they've always been manipulating in all different areas. And we know from retail, we know from manufacturing, we know from GDP, we know from everything else that we've been looking at, that a lot of this is manipulated to convince us that everything is all right. And if we go back in time and we look at all the crashes that we've had, we've seen how they pumped it up through manipulation, creating these bubbles, and the market and everything just dropped. And here we are once again. And if you really look at it, we are at the highest level of the manipulation. And that tells you, because we see the pattern across time, that this fall is going to be catastrophic. And we're starting to see cracks everywhere. We realize that real estate is coming down. There's actually a report that U.S. farmland, their prices have been rising exponentially, for a very long time, since 1986. Now we're seeing a drop of farmland in price. And according to several regional Fed reports, real farmland values in parts of the Midwest fell at their fastest clip in almost 30 years during the first quarter. Now, the question is, why is this happening? Why are we seeing this? Well, there's many different reasons. One being GMO foods. A lot of countries are turning away our agriculture. A lot of states now are implementing laws where they have to be labeled, and we're noticing that those food manufacturers who said it was going to be so costly to label that this is a GMO product, they're actually moving away from GMOs. It's funny because they can put labels on everything that says new and improved. They can redesign the entire package. But just putting a little printed saying that this is GMO, that was going to be not cost effective for them. But it is cost effective for them to move away from GMO, because they realize if they label their products GMO, guess what happens? People are going to turn away from them, just like the other countries. And I don't know about you, but I like to know what's going in my body. I think I have that right to know that I'm eating something that was created through DNA processing. Now, we see that the land The farmland is dropping. And what is happening right now is that there's deteriorating credit conditions. Farmers are not making profits, and they're losing a lot of money. And we're starting to see the value of land start to drop. We're starting to see housing market. We're seeing prices come down. And this is going to continue as time goes on. And it's funny because it reminds me of the Great Depression back in 1929, where we had almost an identical situation. Now, Moody's is out there, and they're saying they're going to have to cut Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, and the reason for them cutting their credit rating is because of the low oil prices. It's taken a hit on their economies, and their economies aren't doing well. And you have to remember, they're taking instructions from the United States government to continually keep the oil suppressed, and it's used for many different agendas. It's used to put a lot of pressure on Russia, which is not working. It's used to make corporations, to make them look like they're doing much, much better than they really are, because it cuts their costs in half or even further. And you have to remember, delivery, airline, manufacturing, with lower oil prices, it allows them to receive a bigger profit. And you have to remember, while they're doing this, they haven't lowered the price in the markets. They're cutting corners and shrinking packages. They're giving you less of the item. They're using other material in their products that's not as high quality to save and cut corners. They're doing whatever they can to keep the economy alive, to make it look like everything is doing well. And we know when this entire economy falls apart, it's going to be horrific. And we can see this in Venezuela, where they're under a state of emergency right now, an economic state of an emergency, where people are running to the markets. They're clearing off the shelves because we notice that the value of their currency is continually dropping. The economy is imploding on itself, and people are becoming desperate. Now, we should look at this and say, okay, if this is happening here, we've seen it in Argentina, we're going to be seeing it in Brazil, we're seeing it in Greece, and we're going to start to see this play out throughout the world. This is what's coming to the United States. We are going to see this same thing. And I know a lot of people are out there like, no, this is impossible. It cannot happen here in the United States. It just won't happen. But guess what? It will happen here. And this is why everyone needs to be prepared and ready to go. Because when this thing starts to implode and the value of the dollar falls, it's going to be very difficult to get supplies. And wherever you're getting your supplies, continually do it. If you haven't gotten it, I would start getting it now. You can go to lifereliance.com. They have emergency food. They have water filtration system. You can customize your order. You can do whatever you want. You can go to Costco. You can go to any place. But whatever you're doing, bring in the material that you need. Because when you look at the situation in Venezuela and you see what they're doing, they're fighting over bags of rice. They're saying that they can't even get cereal. And people broke down doors, they ran inside, and they grabbed whatever they possibly could. Why? Because they want to feed their family. Now, Maduro is extending the economic emergency for another 3 months in Venezuela. And we know that the situation there is going to get worse and worse because, as we know, the U.S. is trying to have coup d'etats in Brazil, Venezuela, and most of the South American countries to wake up the BRICS system. And we're going to have to watch this situation very, very carefully. Now, Joe Biden, he has told Petro Poroshenko that the United States will move forward with a third loan guarantee, and they're going to provide Ukraine with a $1 billion loan guarantee, which was promised in November, and they wanted them to make changes, get everything ready for this new offensive, and now they can have the $1 billion. What has really changed there? Not much. But of course, they're getting ready and prepared. Ukraine also needs the funds desperately because the economy is failing. The value of their currency is declining rapidly. They have no production. They lost the southeastern section of their country. They lost Crimea. And the central bankers didn't get what they paid for. Now, out in Syria, we see that the United States their proxy army, the Islamic State, they've declared a state of emergency in the capital of Raqqa. And this is according to Stephen Warren, U.S. Army Colonel. Now, of course, why did they do this? Because the Syrian government and Russia are now making a major offensive in this area, going after the terrorist group. And we have to wonder, what's the United States doing? Because every time Russia and the Syrian government say, okay, we're ready to go after these terrorists, would you like to assist us or be a part of it? And every single time they say absolutely no. They're doing their own thing. We're destroying other infrastructure. We're actually backing up our proxy army in Raqqa. Now, out in Iraq, we see the Kirkuk government in Iraq. They have said that the nation isn't likely to hang together. And in the end, it doesn't really matter, because what's going to happen is the country of Iraq is going to split up. They're going to be partitioned. Now, of course, this is the United States government central bankers' plan all along, to separate the Middle East into Shia, into Kurds, into Sunnis, into Alawite, to keep them separated and apart. Now, they want to do this in Iraq. They want to do it in Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Yemen, the entire area, because they feel this will be a lot easier to govern. Those areas, which will be mostly Sunni, those areas will have the oil. The Kurds will have the oil, and the Shiites probably have absolutely nothing, and the Alawites absolutely nothing. And we see they're moving in this major direction at this point, and this is all part of their plan. Now, we see that the UK Special Forces, they have launched black ops assaults on the Islamic State using electronic warfare. Now, they're trying to cripple their communications. And we can see at this point they're not going after the Islamic State, because what we've been hearing right now is that the US, UK, they're using cyber attacks, they're using all these different types of electronic warfare. And you really have to think about it. The Islamic State, if we're really talking about these terrorists, do you really think they have all this advanced equipment, computer systems, using all this technology to communicate? No, most likely not. What they're really trying to do, because we see it with the U.S., because right now the Pentagon wants to use their new ultra-secret space operations center to join the fight against, the terror group, and my hands are up and I'm doing quotes at this point, air quotes. What they're really doing is they're preparing and setting up the cyber attacks, electronic warfare, using satellites, because what they're doing is they're going after Russia and the Syrian government. This is where they would use this type of technology. They would not use it against these terrorist groups that have primitive equipment compared to state actors. It makes no sense whatsoever. So we can see already they're preparing and getting ready for something major going on here. And then we get a report that Saudi special forces, they have arrived in Turkey, the capital of Turkey, to participate in another joint military exercise in the Turkey city of Izmir. And these exercises are going to continue into May and into June. Seems like a perfect setup for the August offensive, because we saw this happen back in 2013, and the U.S. brought in military equipment, troops into Jordan back in May and June, and everything stayed there for August for the sarin gas attack, because they thought they were going to go and invade Syria at that point in time. We saw the training occur once again back in 2014, when all of a sudden we saw the Islamic State appear out of nowhere and move into Iraq and Syria. And now we have this drill, this military exercise in May going into June, and it will be 11 dozen different countries: the United States, Germany, Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and they're going to be getting together, and they're going to have exercises like post-naval type of drills. They're going to have ground drills. They're going to have Air Force training and drills. They're going to bring in military assets to this area. Saudi Arabia brought in about 8 different aircraft into this area to be used, and so are the other countries. And all of this is being done and prepared and getting ready for this next major offensive. And most likely, after the drills are over, they will leave the equipment in this area because it seems like they're moving everything in, leaving it there, getting ready, getting prepared, pretending that these are drills, exercises. They've done this before. They've done it every year since 2013, and they're going to do it this year once again. You can see the ceasefire, peace talks. It is a stall tactic, and they're getting prepared and ready to go in August. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.